Welcome everyone to the 2023 LCAP Annual Review. We in the past have called this the Stakeholder Feedback Session, but now we call it the Educational Partner Input Session. This is an important evening, so you can hear all the information from our experts. That would be the two people I'll be introducing after I introduce our board president, Diana Hodge, who's going to introduce our board members who are here with us this evening. Diane.
Thank you. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us in this very important endeavor, because as you know, this is extremely helpful to our community and the children we serve, and it helps us provide what our community feels is necessary for kids. And over the past years, we have been able to gauge the feelings of our community and to take and put those things into action. So again, thank you so much for being a part of us and for being here with us this evening. I'd like to introduce, as you know, as you are, many of you are, we're remote, but there are a couple of our board members who are attending at the district office. And I believe everyone's logged in now. So we have Dustin Burns, our vice president, Ken Fox. Dustin's our clerk. Ken Fox is our vice president, Dustin Burns. Barbara Ryan is with us this evening, and I believe the three of them are at the district office. And Alana Levins-Craig is just finally able, technology has finally cooperated, so she's with us too. So if they all want to say hello, I'll give them a chance to do that, and then we're going to turn it back over to Kristen. Thank you all again.
Hello, everyone. This is Dustin Burns, and we appreciate you all being here this evening.
Ditto.
Yes, we all agree with Dustin's statement.
And Alana, you're with us? I think she's having some technical difficulty. And so anyway, Kristen, if you want to take it from here.
Thank you so much. I know Alana is on the call. She just may be, like you said, not able to get to her microphone at the moment, but she is here, which means all of our board members are in attendance. So thank you all for, of course, being here. We have a number of people on the call with us this evening. There's Alana.
I was able to make it. Sorry, guys. Thank you, Matt, for fixing that.
I'm glad you could be here. We have parents on the call. We have our staff on the call this evening and community members. So thank you all for joining us. This is our third year of this 3-year LCAP plan. We are looking forward to sharing with you the results of our second year as we move into our third year this evening. What we will be doing is Carl Christensen will be walking through a portion of the executive summary, and then he will turn it over to Dr. Stephanie Pierce, our Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, and she'll walk you through the latter part of the executive summary, as well as how to provide us the feedback that we're seeking from you after you have watched this presentation this evening. This is being recorded, as you probably had noticed when you logged in, and our hope, as long as our technology stays true to us this evening, this recording will be available to all of you after this evening. So if you need to go back and re-listen to anything that Carl Christensen, our CBO, had mentioned, or Dr. Stephanie Pierce had mentioned, you would have the opportunity to do that at a later time. Also, at the end of the presentation, we will open our chat to provide you the direct link to the stakeholder feedback section. So you can copy that link or take a picture of that text, but it's also going to be available immediately on the website as well for you, and hope that you can find that quickly. So I'm going to now at this point, again, turn it over to Carl Christensen, who's going to walk you through our document.
All right, well, thank you. So good evening, everyone. So we're going to walk through our local control accountability plan executive summary. You should see it up here on the screen. The first page is just, of course, just introductory information listing some people there. But I want to walk you through various elements of this. We kind of have three elements. So one is I'm going to talk just about the foundational elements of this. Then second, we're going to talk about the actual actions and services and the status of those actions and services from the previous LCAP or the LCAP that we're using this year. And then Dr. Stephanie Pierce is going to talk about data as it relates to various data elements that we have to have in our LCAP and we have to measure. So this page, and by the way, this executive summary is available on our website. If you go to that link for the LCAP, there'll be a link there for the executive summary. And so this page here is just to give a perspective on some of the foundational elements of our LCAP. And specifically, we list our vision and mission statement here, and also student profile. So several years ago, we went through a process of getting educational partner input and talking about what do we want our students to have when they leave here, and what do we want them to have when they are here. And so this is our student profile that grounds everything we do in the LCAP and all the goals and actions that we do, or attempting to target these five areas of student profile that we would like our students to have when they leave our district. And then here we have to, in our LCAP, make sure that we address all 8 state priority areas. So they are listed here. You will see as we go through the data elements, you'll see us referencing these 8 state priority areas. So in our LCAP, our actions as well as our data all need to address these 8 areas. And then we have 3 goals that we have developed. These goals are fairly static. I will say these goals have been this way for several years, numerous years. And so these goals typically remain static. There are some changes that will happen in, let's say, next year as we're developing a brand new LCAP, there might be a few differences in the goals, but for the most part, these stay pretty static because we are always focused on student learning and having annual growth in the assessments and making sure that we're improving and increasing services for students in the social, emotional, and physical well-being area. And then always looking at increasing parent participation and engagement. And so these are the 3 goals that we focus on when we are developing actions and services to work on each year. So then this next section, we are attempting here to give you an update on the status of the actions that were in the LCAP for this year. Most, I would say probably all of these actions will carry forward into the following year. But what we're reporting on this year is just what's the status and where are we at with these actions. And so the first action is the core base program. So the LCAP is developed with the idea that the district has a core base program that we provide for every student. And it's the operations that we need to pay for just to keep our doors open, to be able to educate students. And so there's a core base program of everything we do for every student. And that core base program is listed here in various sub actions, we'll call it. And then over here, we indicate the estimated costs. We estimated we'd spend about $74.3 million in 22-23. And then we always list, what is the percentage we're complete with that. And what it means is not necessarily complete as of today, but it will be complete this year in 22-23. And then there'll be over here just a brief description of any elements of that we wanted to call out. So the core base program is, 100% implemented. We're of course doing that as we operate in the school year. And so that is an action that is completed or will be completed. Then we have these that we call supplemental actions, meaning over and above the core-based program, what are the additional things we do for students to make sure that we're supplementing those services. And in some ways, these are targeted to particular populations of students. And in other cases, it might be for all the students, but it's more services than just the core-based program. So the second action is professional development. Here we list various activities that we are doing this year for professional development opportunities for both teachers as well as management staff and classified staff. And then we also have a certain position that is dedicated to professional development. So you'll see that listed down here. And then over here, we indicate, of course, that we're estimating we're going to spend about 1.8 million this year, that we will be 100% complete with this action because by the end of this year, all these activities will have taken place. And so that is listed as 100% complete. The next action is technology devices. This is making sure every student has an iPad, making sure they have the technology device that they need to be able to learn in the classroom. And so this one, we estimated we spent $37,000. And this action is primarily focused on just making sure that new students, for example, have an iPad. So existing students already have an iPad. There might be repairs or there might be replacements we need to do in that. That's captured in here. But the next action captures the idea of, well, this device is only going to last a certain number of years. We typically look at about 4 years. And so after 4 years, we're going to need to replace all of those items. And so that's included in this next action step where we're setting aside money to replenish those devices when they become obsolete. And so that action of the student devices is 100% complete. And then this action here for making sure that we're setting aside money for a technology reserve to replenish those devices, as well as making sure our network is operating optimally so that we can make sure we have connection to the internet and connection to all the resources that the iPad allows for students. And then we also have a director of instructional technology that's devoted to helping with all of this implementation. And so these are listed here of major actions that we've taken in this area. For example, we are replacing our wireless access points. We have replaced and will continue to do so network switches. These are the intelligent devices that help to navigate data traffic across the network in the quickest way. And then we also do a transfer to Fund 40 for that replenishment. And then, of course, we have our director of instructional technology that's employed. So that action is 100% complete. Then we have digital learning software systems. These are major enterprise-wide systems we use. Achieve 3000 is for English language development, English language arts, and there's an ELD or English language development component. Dreambox is for math, Safari Montage, SchoolNet, several of these district-wide programs. That's all 100% complete. Then we have curriculum resource teachers is our next area, where these are teachers on special assignment that are primarily serve as coaches for teachers in classrooms to provide professional development as well as actually hands-on work in the classroom where they'll come in and model some lessons for the teachers and so forth. So we have 3 of those that are continuing. Okay, so we have 3 sort of base curriculum resource teachers, and then for this year we've added an additional one for special education. Actually, that was originally planned for a couple of years, and that will work. We'll have that person on board for 22-23 and 23-24. And then we have one that we brought on for supplemental professional development, and that will that position will be here through 25-26 is the plan. And so we have 5 curriculum resource teachers currently, and that's 100% implemented. And we have curriculum leadership team. This is a team that convenes to look at curriculum when we're adding new curriculum, especially for textbook adoptions, for example. And in fact, this year, that team was working on piloting elementary science curriculum, as well as implementing middle school science. So that team convenes periodically during the year to do planning and piloting and helping with the process of implementing those textbook adoptions. Action 8 is under goal 1 is supplemental school personnel. And by the way, I forgot to mention that these actions are designated by a number that indicates the goal they're associated with. So this one, these actions are all 1.6, 1.7, 1.8. What that means is that's in goal 1 or goal A that was listed on the previous pages. So these are all within goal 1 when they say 1 dot some number. And then we're going to increment up and we'll go to goal 2 and then goal 3 in these. So action 8 in goal 1 is supplemental school personnel. And this is schools that will employ supplemental personnel to address specific areas that the school may need to address. And so we have some schools that are doing that. We have a social worker, additional social worker at Pride. We have an intervention resource teacher and 1 community liaison at Pepper Drive. We have 2 instructional assistants at Cone Park, 2 instructional assistants at Chet, and 1 at Rio Seco. So the schools make decisions on that staffing using their own allocated budgets or funds that are available to them. Bilingual assistants, these are for helping English language learner students. And we have 5.25 FTE of those, full-time equivalent is what that means. So 5.25 of those, and that's 100% implemented. And then we have this summer academic program that we have been offering every year. And we did so again this year. It's a 4-week summer program that was 100% implemented. And we are continuing to plan for that for this coming summer as well. Action 11 is supplemental instructional intervention materials. These are over and above. There was an action up above that had to do with enterprise-wide systems. These are in addition to that. And so we have various programs that address specific needs. Those are listed there. Those are 100% implemented as well. Those are all implemented. Then we go to action 12 in goal 1, which is intervention specialists. These are language arts specialists or intervention resource teachers at schools. We have 9 of those, 1 for each school, that are the base number of language arts specialists or intervention resource teachers that we have. In addition to that, this year we added 7 more. And we've done that through this year, 22-23. And then we had planned on, when we originally developed this LCAP, we had planned on a portion of those IRTs, instructional resource teachers, IRTs, continuing into 23-24. But we have since looked at this a little bit closer and realized that we really can't do this. We've got some funding challenges. And so these actually will not continue into the 23-24 school year. So these 7 will not continue for next year. And so over here, we have just a listing of, again, the 16 FTE that we have implemented for this year. Then action 13 is, and the reason this action is in here is because when we first developed this LCAP, remember, these are 3-year LCAPs. We develop them for a 3-year period, and then we revisit them every year. And then after that 3-year period is up, we develop a new LCAP that may include a lot of the actions that are already in here, but it may include new things as well. So in the first year we implemented this, we had the transitional kindergarten program as a supplemental program. That has been moved into the core base program. So there is no listing over here of implementation because it's now part of action 1.1, which is the one up above we talked about earlier. Action 14, early admission to kindergarten. We continue to operate that program. We have 2 classes operating this year. We have had in previous years up to 6 classes. The reason that this number of classes is going down is because we are implementing more transitional kindergarten classes. And so as the age levels change for kids to be in transitional kindergarten, it means that they are going to be in TK rather than EAK, the early admission to kindergarten program. So that program right now is going down in terms of the number of kids that are in it, but we're still operating it, and it has 2 classes. The Santee Success Program, that's a program that we offer as a temporary alternative instructional setting. It has a lower class size, and that program is implemented and continuing. Then we have Action 16, which is temporarily reducing our grade 4-8 class sizes. And we have done that this year. We are providing 13 additional teachers to do that, to lower it to about 28-1 on average. That doesn't mean, some schools and some classes might run a little higher, some run a little lower, but the average of that is about 28-1. And our plan is to continue that into next year as well. This action for instructional assistance was only a 1-year action, and so that action has been discontinued for this year. Action 18, alternative school instructional supports. This was a temporary thing we did during COVID, and so this has been moved into the core-based program. This was the instructional supports through the alternative education program, and so that has been moved to the core-based program. Then we have Action 19, which is the before after school program. This is a Project Safe as well as Extended Learning Opportunity Program, all operated under the out of school time program. And that is about 75% implemented. And the reason for that is we're experiencing some staffing challenges. We had planned on this program servicing about 800 students. Right now it's operating with a little less than 600 students. And so we have not been able to completely implement that program, but we are continuing to make efforts to try to do that, to get up to 100%. But right now we're about 75% implemented. Then we go to Action 20 in Goal 1, which is our admin interns. And we have 2 of those, and those are listed there with the schools. Then our student well-being initiatives. These are behavioral improvement programs trying to improve school connectedness and so forth. And that's 100% implemented. There are some listings here of some things that we are doing to address those areas. And so that's 100% implemented. And then now we move to Goal 2. And in that, we have student mental health initiatives. This is our counselors and social workers. We have 8 of those, and 1 is dedicated to managing the caseload for the homeless students. And then we actually have some additional ones that we're bringing in with contracted vendors. And so we have 9 of those. So I don't know why that says 8. Well, okay, sorry. We have 9 of them, and then we have 2 FTE therapists that are provided also through a vendor. So, correction, we have 9 counselors. All right, then student attendance improvement. This is where we want to focus on trying to increase attendance. Our attendance has actually been dropping during COVID and this year as well. And so we are focusing some efforts there to try to improve attendance. And then our last action is parent engagement. And the most significant element of this is providing 3 parent outreach programs this year. And we will do that and be completely implemented this year. So this is the listing of the total, 88.7 million or so is the estimate for all of those actions. And so now what I'm going to do is turn it over to Dr. Stephanie Pierce, who is going to go into the pages that relate to data.
Thank you, Mr. Christensen. I'm going to start at the very beginning where you see metrics and data for the 8 state priority areas. And that's really on the left-hand side, you'll see the Santee School District enrollment and demographic information. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see the comparison to the state. And so we have total enrollment listed here. And you can see that we have seen a decrease in student enrollment. The percent of students that are socioeconomically disadvantaged, we had a slight increase since last year. And this is actually not this year's data, but the previous year's data. And then the percent of English learners, there's a slight increase, and the percent of students with disabilities, there is an increase as well. And then on the right-hand column, you can see what the looks like in comparison to the state as well. So as Mr. Christensen said earlier, there are several, all of those 8 state priority areas have to be measured. And there's 3 areas in the very first one under the area called conditions of learning. And the first one is our basic services. And so each year we look to see, do we have fully credentialed teachers? And we have met this target. We also have to do an analysis on highly qualified. And again, we have 100% there and meet the target. We also have to look at our teachers credentialed outside of their subject area and make sure that they are fully credentialed for what they are teaching, and we meet that. There is teacher misassignment rate, and we do not have that. And so we meet that target. We have the same thing that we measure for our English learners, making sure that the teachers have the credentialing necessary and that they are assigned, the English learners are assigned to a teacher with the appropriate credentialing. And then the next one is maintaining 100% of our students with access to standards aligned textbooks. And we have met that in with 100% of our children having those instructional materials. We have what they call the state school facility rating, and we use that, and we've also met the standard for that. And this last one is our own local facility inspection rating. So we use the state one, but we also wanted to have a more rigorous tool. So we created our own to make sure that we were keeping our schools in good condition. So we have maintained our rate on the local facility one. The next one is about implementation of state standards, and we measure this through the year using our local measures. And so through the year, our teachers and students engage in assessments. And the first one is our interim assessment, and that is for English language arts. It is a part of the state testing system, but it is not the actual state test. It's our own internal. We can use their assessments as benchmarks through the year. So in English language arts, we did see a increase in that area. And then when you look at the mathematics, which is also the interim assessments, we saw an increase on those as well. The next section is called iReady Reading, and that's an end of the year diagnostic looking at a nationally standardized type assessment. And in that one, we have a reading one, and we had an increase of 1%. The other one is a mathematics, and we saw a 2% increase on that. And then principals do use an observation form and tool in which to visit classrooms and make to see the standards alignment as well. And so we have been able to meet that target. So the last area in this is course access. And in this particular one, because we're an elementary system having middle school within the classes, we don't have a separate CTE enrollment, and it's more typical for high school. The other one is, the next one is maintaining our enrollment in a broad course of study, and we are meeting the requirements of a broad course of study for our students. And we've maintained that. The next one is our English learners being enrolled in programs and services for a program that's called Integrated and Designated English Language Development. In essence, that is them developing their English learning skills if their primary language is not English. And so we have met that target as well. And then the last one is student electives. And the one reason why it's 0 in 2021, because that was when we were running a hybrid program and we weren't fully back in class. But in last year, we were fully back in school and running electives again. So you see the electives increased. And so that's why it's different there. So we're really creating a new baseline for electives at this point. So the data analysis section is designed to give a summary of all of these measures so that when you fill out this summary, you're thinking about the actions that Mr. Christensen reviewed and how we're doing on our measurements, and then giving some feedback to us about what you see as successes, things that are challenges, and things that you think might make a difference in student learning and within our system to improve each of these areas. So we'll go to the next area, which is pupil outcomes. And in this section, we have what they call pupil achievement. And the very first one is this standardized assessment that our students take each year, 3rd through 8th grade. And that is the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress, known as CASP. And it is the English language arts one is our first. And you can see from 2021 to 21-22, we had a slight increase. So it was more of a maintaining from that time period. And the next one down is the actual mathematics one. And this is looking at the students who met standard or exceeded. And in this, you can see there was, again, a slight increase in performance on that. The next section is the science, and we had a pretty substantial increase from one year to the next with the science by 6.21. The next measure is for our special education students. So students with disabilities take this particular test, and they call it the alternative assessment. And it's in English language arts, and there's a level 2 or a level 3. And you can see that we had an increase from 2021 to 21-22. And mathematics, the same thing. We saw a pretty substantial increase in our special education achievement on that specific assessment. The other one is our LCAP, which is a measure that looks to assess students how well they have shown achievement on developing their English language. And so it's the English language proficiency assessment for California, and we fondly call it the LPAC. And in this particular one, we have the percentage of students who are scoring at the level 3 and the level 4. And in this particular one, you can see that we had a slight decrease in that. The next one is a measure that was actually put in place prior to the pandemic, and when we didn't have the dashboard for a while, it was not being identified, and we were aware of the English Learner Progress Indicator. But this year, this 2021 was the first time, and it's identified on medium. And so what you're doing there is measuring both status and growth for the to determine the children progressing in English language development. The 2023 measure is, so this was a baseline, and then the next measure will be the comparison. The very last one is our English language reclassification rate. And in this one, we're looking to see the students who have demonstrated that they have the proficiency fully of the English learner development standards. And so we saw a increase of 6.4% on that from the previous year to this year. So the next section that we have is other pupil outcomes. And the only area that we have that's a separate assessment for this is our physical fitness test results. This test has changed drastically. It does test some specific areas, but the only measurement that the State Department is collecting anymore is the participation rate, and that's what's being highlighted here. So we look to see what the participation rate is, and that's the new baseline now for this measure. So again, we have that data analysis piece here that just goes through each of these areas in a summary format to further discern any improvement that you would suggest or have us consider. And that includes not only continuing some actions, but it may be asking us to consider some that we don't currently have on our LCAP. So this is the time that you would be able to do that through the survey. So we have one more section to review. In this one, it's engagement, and the first one is our parent involvement. So a couple of ways we've been measuring that is through volunteer hours. And because during this time period, due to COVID, there was a restriction, and this is the first year that parents are invited to be volunteers on a school campus again, that we don't have a measure for this at this point, but it will be coming back, which is a good thing. Our number of parents on committees, you can see that there was a slight decrease. The people who could serve on district and or site committees. This next section is pupil engagement. And here we're measuring the attendance rate. And again, I want to remind everyone that 2021 was hybrid. And so students came for a small portion of the day, half of the students, and the other half of the day they came. And then in 21-22, we were back in full day. And so there was a slight decrease. And we also had an experience of pretty significant COVID cases, even into the 21-22 school year. So we definitely saw a change in our attendance rate. And we saw a drop of 3.89%. And you can see when you look at pre-COVID, we had a significantly looking different attendance rate. With chronic absenteeism, we have seen that increase significantly. We in 2021, it was not nearly as high. And then in 21-22, we've seen a very large increase in our chronic absenteeism. Then the next one is that we've maintained our 0% dropout for middle school. The next section is school climate. And in this one, we look at our student attendance review team, which is working to develop contracts to address the chronic absenteeism. And so you can see that we're kind of establishing a new baseline because those got started back up in that year. And then also the school attendance review board meetings. Again, there's a new baseline as those got started as well. The expulsion rate we have not seen a change in our expulsion rate. The suspension rate, you'll see there was an increase in our suspension rate. And I also want to highlight the fact that We saw significantly less behavior during that 2021, during that hybrid time. And we saw a change in 21-22 when the children came back full time. The next section are our own internal surveys that we use, and we actually use a national normed survey to conduct with our students at school. And you can see that there's a significant difference from when the students were in hybrid in comparison to when they came back full time. So we do see a decrease in their perceived answers in safety. The next area too, again, is a survey format, and it's their perceived feelings of sense of belonging. And there's a decrease of 5% there. In our 6th through 8th grade, which we give it separately from 4th and 5th, it's a little bit different survey. And for them, their perceived safety was also negative 15%. So a change between hybrid to full-time again. And then the last one is 6th through 8th grade, and the students responding to their feeling of school connectedness and the sense of belonging. And we saw a decrease of 4% there. So again, up above, you'll see that there is the data analysis section that gives a summary. Carl, can you scroll up to that, or is it stuck? Yeah, there. So there's a data analysis section that reviews all of those metrics that I just reviewed. So again, I want to remind everyone that these data points are an opportunity for us to think and dream about what kind of things that we may have not considered, what we might want to consider, and then some feedback on our current actions if you question and or have concerns about whether or not they're making a difference. So I would encourage you to use this executive summary. We shared that it was available on the website. And before I close, I will review that we do have some upcoming opportunities for feedback once we move to the actual draft of the LCAP. So on the District Advisory Committee, May 11th, we hold a question and comment period in which questions and comments are taken to be presented to the superintendent. The superintendent responds to those. The next one is the DLAC, which is our district level English Language Arts Advisory Committee meeting. And there's the same comments and questions are encouraged and given to the superintendent to respond to. And then we conduct a public hearing at a board meeting. And so you can see that that one is June 6th. And that's another opportunity to come in and address your comments and questions to the superintendent and the school board. And the superintendent responds to those as well. And then the last is when we have the adopted LCAP and the district adopted budget at the same meeting in June 20th. So gave you lots of good information. And again, this is all available in our executive summary on the website. And then in the comments section, or excuse me, in the chat, you're able to find the link to the survey, and it's also available at the website under the banner. When you go to the very first landing page, you see a big banner, and we have until April 28th for that survey to be open. So I know all of you want to jump in and do that survey tonight, and I would love for that to happen. But if for any reason you have a busy evening ahead and you wanted to do the survey at another time, it will be up through April 28th. And on behalf of the governing board and all of us in administration, we are very happy and delighted that you joined us this evening to go through this. And we encourage you to give us that feedback so that we can make a difference in learning for your children. Thank you so much tonight.